Welcome to session 5 of our lesson 0. This is your lesson for Friday, August the 13th. In today's lesson, we will be writing and interpreting expressions. So the expressions that were in the previous lesson, they were written numerically with numbers and symbols. These expressions that we're going to talk about are written differently. These expressions that we're about to discuss are written as phrases. So we're going to try one. 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. We want to look at that and we want to determine what do my operations need to look like. If I were to write this as a numerical expression, what order do I need to do this in? So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to take a try at making this numerical expression for 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. If you're stuck on this problem and you're not really sure what to do, think about what the word minus tells us that we're doing with this problem. What operation would that be? Then think about 15 minus the sum of. Think about what a sum is. Then you're going to write out the expression numerically with numbers and symbols. For example, 15 minus tells us that we will be subtracting, and we are subtracting the sum of 6 and 7. So again, make sure that you paused the video to go ahead and write this as a numerical expression. When you're done, you should have 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. So we're going to take a look at some strategies for this. On this next page, we have a picture it. Now we have the exact same expression as before, 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at how they drew a picture of this. So we're looking at this picture it section. Take a look at that picture. In this picture, we have 15 circles or counters, if you would like to think of them as counters, in a dark gray color. Then we have 6 counters in a light gray color and 7 counters in that same light gray color. So what you would want to think about is why did they put the 6 and 7 in the same color circles instead of giving them each their own color? So begin to think about that as we move through the rest of the lesson. So 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. In this next section of Model It, it says you can think about what the words mean to help understand the problem. So in this section, what they're pointing out for you is they want all of us to see that minus means to subtract, and that we are subtracting the sum of 6 and 7. Also, that sum means we are adding. So we have 15 minus the sum. Hopefully we're seeing a connection here with the fact that the 6 and 7 are in that group of the sum. So on our connected page, number 1 asks us, in the expression 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7, do you subtract first or add first, and why? So that same expression that we've been discussing, do we subtract first or do we add first? Go ahead and take a moment to pause the video and answer that. We would add first for this particular problem. And the reason why is right here where it says the sum. Because it's 15 minus the sum. And in order to know the sum, we're going to have that sum there. So we have to add the 6 and 7 first before we subtract. When we write numerical expressions, there are ways in which we can show which operation to do first. We call them grouping symbols. And these are things, such as parentheses, brackets, and sometimes you will see braces. So we can use those to tell that that operation should go first. So if we were writing the numerical expression for 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7, it would look like this. We have placed the 6 and 7 inside of a grouping symbol so that we know if we're following that order of operations, and if we remember from our previous lessons or maybe from previous grade levels, we follow GEMS or PEMDAS for some, and this says that we start with those grouping symbols. So if that's where we would like to start, then that's how we note that in our expression. Question number 4 says, Harper wrote the expression 15 minus 6 plus 7 to represent 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. The first thing that this problem wants you to do is to evaluate what Harper did. So we have 15 minus 6 plus 7. If we go back up to our order of operations acronym, we have GEMS. The G is grouping. There aren't any groupings in this, so we're going to mark that one out. There are not any exponents. There's no multiplication, so we are going to subtract or add from left to right. In this case, you would start with 15 minus 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. We bring down everything else in the expression, and we still have this operation left to do. So we do 9 plus 7. This will give us 16. Now we need to explain why that is not the correct way to write a numerical expression for 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. So take a moment to answer why this is not the correct way to write the numerical expression. Hopefully we see that just like before when we were talking about how this is 15 minus the sum, because we want 15 minus the sum, we need to group the 6 and 7 together and do that first with our grouping symbol. So that is why that is incorrect. Let's take a look at number 5. It says write a word phrase to show how to interpret Harper's expression. So a word phrase, when we're talking about a phrase, we're talking about something that uses numbers and words. When we're talking about numerical, we're talking about numbers and symbols. So this is Harper's numerical expression. Now they want us to write numbers and words that would match that numerical expression. When thinking about this, think about your natural steps for order of operations. Think about what you did first when you evaluated that expression. Well, the first thing that we did was 15 minus 6. Then we think of the second thing that we did when we evaluated this expression. Then we did plus 7. There are other ways to write that numerical expression as a phrase. This is just the easiest way for most to connect it, is to just write it in the steps and the order that you would perform the operations. On number 6, that is a question for you to answer, for you to take a moment and reflect. So think about all the models and strategies that were discussed in this lesson, which was to draw a picture, to use a numerical expression, to use a phrase. So think about all of those. And if you found that one of them helped you better understand how to solve expressions or how to solve the try-it problem of 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7. If at any point while we were talking about these connected questions, if all of a sudden a light bulb went off and you went, oh yes, I see it, you have to group them first. If any of this conversation clicked with you and you're thinking, yes, that makes sense now, then you describe it in number 6. So you're just describing anything in this lesson that was helpful for you in understanding how to solve that try-it problem. And again, that's just a question for you to answer on your own. Okay, now we get to the apply it. So we are going to look at number 7 together, and we will also look at number 8. So taking a look at number 7, there's a couple of steps that you need to do for number 7. So number 7 says, draw a picture to show what the phrase 2 times the difference of 8 and 1 means. If we were to scroll back to the picture of 15 minus the sum of 6 and 7, then each number was represented by counters. And then the words were represented by symbols or operations. So if we want to draw a picture for 2 times means that we're going to multiply 2 times the difference. So if you have another color here, I would use a different color. 2 times the difference of 8 and 1. And difference says that we are subtracting. I've even had students in class go ahead and put a parentheses around that difference because that is grouped together. Just like the sum of, if we want to subtract the sum of something, we have to know the sum. Well, if we want to multiply the difference, we have to know the difference first. So after you draw a picture, then you write the expression. So your expression is just going to mirror that picture. 2 times 8 minus 1. And then it wants you to find the solution and write it here. So we're going to evaluate this expression. So we start in by writing down our order of operations. Again, if you prefer PEMDAS, then you are welcome to write that acronym, but I'm asking that all of my students write this acronym every time that they are evaluating an expression. So we start with grouping, and we do have a grouping here. 8 minus 1 is 7. We bring down the other parts of our expression. Take a look at our order of ops. There are no exponents. There is multiplication. So we're going to multiply 2 times 7, and that gives us 14. There are no other parts of my expression to bring down, so I don't have to worry about subtraction. So the solution to that expression is 14. Let's take a look at number 8. Number 8 says, write an expression for the phrase 6 plus the quotient of 15 and 3. So it says, draw a picture to help if needed. So if drawing a picture helps you, then do that, okay? So if you're drawing a picture, you would draw a picture of 6 counters in one color, and then you would pick another color to do the quotient of 15 and 3. Then you're ready to write your expression. So for this particular expression, we have 6 plus the quotient. So we've got to know what the quotient is. The quotient of 15 and 3. When we're talking about quotient, we're talking about division. So we want 15 divided by 3. So now that we have our numerical expression, we're ready to follow our order of operations with GEMS. We do have grouping. So we have 15 divided by 3. We would do that first. 15 divided by 3 would be 5. We bring down the rest of our expression. There are no exponents, no multiplication or division left. So now we are to subtract or add from left to right. We have 6 plus 5. 6 plus 5 equals 11. So our solution to this expression is 11. If you need to rewind or pause or go back to look at anything that you might have questions about, please do that and let me know. What you're going to do now, you're going to look at the practice pages. So these pages right here. And I want you to focus on certain problems. I want you to focus on number 1. Number 3. Number 5 and number 6. So 1, 3, 5, and 6. And then, I want you to do question number 8. Now, you do have to find the answer to question number 7 before you can evaluate the expression. So once you figure out the answer to number 7, then you actually work the expression on number 8. Once you have finished those problems, if you don't have any questions, then do the rest of the problems on those practice pages. If you have questions after doing those, then please ask to either call me or Zoom with me so that I can answer your questions about those before you move on to do the remainder of the practice problems. So you're going to complete those practice problems and then you will turn those in. These will be for a grade. So again, number 1, number 3, number 5, number 6, and number 8. And if you have questions, please ask me. I am here to help.